Welcome back, it's me, Lou. For today's video, we're going to jump into the time machine and travel way back to the 90s as we take a look at these Toybiz X-Men action figures. So these figures, they're old, they're used, they're slightly beat up, but I love them. I came across these action figures when I was visiting one of my favorite collectible toy stores, and that's Wax Packs, Records, and Toys, located in wonderful Roselle, Illinois. If you happen to be in the Chicagoland area, check it out. It's a great shop. So when I was at the shop, I was digging through their bins of used action figures, and I came across these older Toy Biz X-Men figures. All right, so growing up in the 80s and 90s, by the time Toy Biz started dabbling in creating superhero toys aimed at the Marvel properties like the X-Men, I believe I was already a freshman in high school, and by then I was well beyond the age of playing with toys. By then I was knee deep into video games like the Sega Genesis and the SNES. But when they came out with X-Men figures, I remember there was an excitement because I'm like, wow, it's really cool. They're making X-Men toys. So I remember being on board and just buying the first wave of X-Men figures. And that's pretty much it. And then throughout that time period between high school and college, and a little bit post-college, every now and then I just buy a random figure just for the hell of it. Now that I'm, much older, it's really cool that, over the last 10 years, we've gotten so many different lines of superhero figures. In the later years of Toy Biz, they really upped their game. And with Hasbro acquiring the Marvel license, they've given us the Marvel Legends lines of action figures. So, we've been very spoiled over the last, 10 to 15 years. And for me, looking back at some of these older action figures, I'm very nostalgic for them. And the way I view these figures, it's very much how I kind of view the older Kenner Star Wars figures from the late 70s, early 80s. For me, it's a small piece of toy history. And even though, in terms of their action figure engineering and their design, even though they're a lot more primitive as to what we have nowadays, I think for back then, they really captured the spirit of what these characters represented. They really embodied that time period. And I don't know, I just get so excited nowadays when I see these older figures, and more so if I could find them loose and in nice condition. These are missing some of their accessories, but for the most part, they're still very presentable. They're very nice, and some of these figures still have their functional gimmicks. So let's get started. First off, we have on the left, we have the character Random. I always get him and Bushwhacker mixed up because they kind of have similar powers. They both have an arm that could shoot projectiles. This was a character that was featured prominently, I believe, in the older X Factor comic books from back in the day. His design is very 90s like. He has the do-rag on his head, sleeveless jacket. He's a very bulky, top-heavy character. And I don't know what the gimmick is on the toy here. I know it's supposed to fire missiles. And you store the missiles. They're stuck right now. I was able to remove them earlier. So these missiles here are for storage. And then the spring-loaded cannon is actually in the middle. I was trying to get it to work the other day. And for whatever reason, it just wouldn't work. And now these missiles are stuck. Which is alright, But yeah, here's Random, pasty white character, very top heavy. This is one of my favorite X-Men characters. I love Sabretooth. I think I actually like Sabretooth more than I like Wolverine. This is based off the 90s version of Sabretooth that we saw in the Fox cartoon and also the Jim Lee designed one. He has a fun gimmick. He squeezes his legs together and his mouth opens, revealing his fangs. And I believe also his arms. Yeah, so if you have his arms out and he squeezes his legs, his arms move and then he has his fangs. It looks really cool. It's kind of silly, but like I've said in other videos, I love action figures that feel more like toys than like premium collectibles. Yeah, I'm so nostalgic for this time period. I think especially since I wasn't really collecting Toybiz figures during this time. You know, I'd buy a figure every now and then, but during the late 90s, I think I was more about collecting Star Wars and Power of the Force. Which is kind of odd because I've been a lifelong comic book fan for like ever. And I don't know, these toys are wonderful. Nice throwback to this time period. Next we have Maverick. This was an X-Men character. This is a repaint, I believe. The first release of this figure was in yellow and silver. This one is in gold and blue. This guy's gimmick, there's a switch on his back, and then if you pull it, his arm kind of like, it's like quick draw. It's a quick draw feature, but you know, it's an older figure, so the joints aren't as tight as they used to be. But yeah, there, that was a good one. So that's awesome. I love quick draw features on action figures, especially a guy like this. He comes with a cool trademark Maverick gun, which has the 2 cartridges on the side. Yeah, so the accessories, you know, they're very basic. You know, they look like they were designed like in the 90s, which they were. But the one thing I really loved about this toy line is that, you know, eventually they would repaint a lot of the action figures and, like, you know, repurpose them as other characters. For example, like the X-Force Domino figure was later repainted and repurposed as Jean Grey. But for the most part, you know, you'd get a lot of unique sculpts. You know, it's not like with the Marvel Legends figures nowadays where there's a lot of reuse. And over here we have Sunfire. This was the Will Sportaccio designed costume. It deviates really, really far from Sunfire's traditional costume. You know, he no longer has the mask. He has the long ponytail and the cybernetic armor. I like this design a lot. I kind of wish they'd go back to this. Sunfire is currently part of the new X-Men team. And his costume, it has some callbacks to his older costume, but, you know, he's back to wearing a mask. But I love this costume a lot. This is great. And then this body armor actually clips off. You can take this off. And then you can see all his armor and cybernetics, which is weird because he's not a cyborg to begin with, so I don't understand why this is even on his costume. I was fortunate that the chrome on this plastic piece isn't flaking off. It's a little scuffed up, but it's still very presentable, and it still looks nice, especially from a distance. So yeah, great action figures. We have Sunfire. We have Maverick. Sabretooth with his fun play feature. And then we have Random. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your support. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.